Welcome to Somebody Pinch Me, the podcast that doesn't ask for your comfort, just your attention. Each episode, we break down the lies baked into everyday life in America, from the paycheck that won't stretch to the corporations cashing in on your burnout. Here, we talk about the truth they're counting on you to ignore or not notice. I'm Sonia in Cyber. Let's get into it. You ever scroll past a picture so absurd you have to stop and double check if it's real? Like the one of that Gilded Ballroom. Gold ceilings, crystal chandeliers, marble floors, built for the powerful, funded by the wealthy, and sold to us like it's the symbol of American greatness. Yeah, me too. While millions of Americans can't afford rent, healthcare, or groceries, our so-called leaders are out here hosting billionaires under chandeliers. And we're supposed to call that patriotism. You look at that room, and it's not just gaudy, it's symbolic. It's the perfect metaphor for modern America. A handful of elites toasting champagne under golden ceilings while the floor beneath the rest of us keeps cracking or falling. This country was supposed to be founded on rebellion against kings. No crowns, no monarchs, no divine right to rule. But fast forward 250 years, and what do we have? A new kind of royalty, one that doesn't wear crowns, but cuts checks. Billionaires who buy politicians the way most people buy lunch. Corporate executives who write the laws their companies profit from. And a political class so dependent on donations they treat democracy like a subscription service. The Gilded Ballroom isn't just a building, it's a symbol of who really runs this country. Because power doesn't change hands at the ballot box anymore. It changes hands at a fundraiser. That ballroom wasn't built for the people. It was built for the patrons, for the hedge fund managers, oil executives, and defense contractors who write six-figure checks and call it support, for the CEOs who fund campaigns and then get tax cuts the size of small nations, for the developers who bankroll politicians in exchange for deregulation. It's not just tacky, it's transactional. And you and I, we're the ones suffering. While billionaires sip cocktails under gold ceilings, ordinary Americans are rationing insulin, skipping dentist appointments, and working 60-plus-hour work weeks to break even. And somehow, we're the ones accused of wanting free stuff? Every chandelier, every marble pillar, every glittering glass of champagne says this is who has access. The elite who treat politics like an investment portfolio. The corporate executives whose donations double as down payments on influence. The mega donors who expect policy favors the way most of us expect customer service. It's not just opulence, it's optics. And this is the problem, because access is everything. The person who can get 5 minutes in a quiet corner of that ballroom can shape a policy that changes millions of lives. When those seats at the table are effectively for sale, what happens to everyone who can't afford the cover charge? Here's the quiet math behind it all. Major donors fund campaigns. Campaigns rely on those donors again next cycle. Policies tilt to keep those donors happy. Regular voters get the leftovers. That's not democracy. That's a private membership. And if the reports are true that this kind of ballroom, this kind of luxury event was paid for or sponsored by the wealthiest allies and corporations, then it's not just tasteless, it's an exchange. Because no one writes seven-figure checks out of generosity. They do it because they know there's a return on investment coming later, in tax breaks, contracts, deregulation, or quiet phone calls that never make the news. It's like watching a magician on stage. The sparkle is a distraction. The real trick happens in the paperwork afterward. And as if that wasn't bad enough, let's call it what it is. A government that serves its donors instead of its people is not a democracy, it's a business. You can't make fair policy when every decision is influenced by who can afford access. When billionaires fund campaigns, they expect returns. Tax breaks, contracts, regulatory rollbacks, ambassadorships. It's not corruption in the traditional sense, it's worse. It's legalized bribery. They don't have to sneak money into briefcases anymore, they just host a gala. Let's be real. Anytime powerful people pay for the platforms that elevate politicians, it creates a question mark that hangs over every decision made afterward. When the same people who underwrite political events also own corporations with pending legislation, you don't need a conspiracy theory to see a conflict, you just need common sense. Imagine this: a billionaire energy mogul helps fund a political event. Months later, environmental protections are quietly rolled back. Coincidence? Maybe. But it's a coincidence that keeps repeating. Or picture a defense contractor underwriting a campaign gala and then landing a massive government contract the next fiscal year. Again? Coincidence? Or the cost of doing business? That's what happens when the line between public service and private interest gets smudged. And when leaders brag that their opulence is paid for by wealthy patrons, it raises an uncomfortable truth. If the patrons are paying the bill, who's paying attention to the people? It's not about legality. It's about loyalty. Because even if no law is technically broken, the bond between the public and their government is. Every dollar that buys access pushes ordinary Americans further from the microphone. And every event like that ballroom reminds us that politics is no longer about ideas. It's about invitations for only certain somebodies. And when those somebodies are a cluster of corporations and ultra-wealthy donors, it changes everything about how democracy sounds, looks, and functions. Because the moment private money funds public power, the definition of representation starts to shift. The people with checkbooks start to sound louder than the people with ballots. When wealthy patrons foot the bill for a politician's stage, what they're really buying is proximity. Proximity to whisper in an ear before the cameras roll. Proximity to shape priorities before the public ever gets a chance to weigh in. That isn't freedom. It's influence. And influence isn't supposed to be for sale. America was built on the promise that leadership could not be purchased, that power would be borrowed from the people, not bankrolled by the few. Money in politics flips that promise on its head. It turns elections into auctions, patriotism into marketing, and public service into product placement. And the worst part, most of it's legal. We call them donations, PACs, bundlers, and sponsorships, but the effect is the same. Policy follows the money trail, not the will of the people. So when we ask who's paying for it, what we're really asking is who's being listened to. And if the answer keeps being the same names, the same industries, the same elite circles, then the rest of us aren't being represented, we're being managed. Now, that gilded ballroom is a mirror. Every gold panel on the wall is a reflection of how far we've drifted from the values we claim to hold. The idea that anyone can lead this country. That merit matters more than money, that the people decide. Now, democracy's being auctioned off to the highest bidder. It's not just about one man or one building. It's about the entire culture that cheers for excess while ignoring suffering. That confuses rich with right. That calls billionaires job creators while their workers live on food stamps. Food stamps they're also attacking and scrutinizing. Throughout history, authoritarian rulers have used architecture as propaganda, so this is nothing new. Grand halls, marble staircases, gold ceilings, these weren't built for comfort, they were built for awe. From ancient palaces to 20th century regimes, the message has always been the same. Look how magnificent I am. Look how small you are. Lavish buildings serve a purpose. They transform inequality into spectacle. They convince the public that opulence equals strength, that grandeur equals legitimacy. And while ordinary citizens struggle to afford food or medicine, the powerful surround themselves with symbols that say, we are untouchable. That's why the image of a gilded ballroom matters. When leaders spend fortunes constructing monuments to themselves while citizens can't afford necessities, it isn't just bad optics, it's a warning sign. Power has stopped serving the people and started worshiping itself. So like I said in a recent video I posted online, you want to be mad at someone about all of this? Good. But be mad at the right people. Be mad at the billionaires who spend millions lobbying against higher wages while pretending to be job creators. Be mad at the corporations funding political campaigns to protect their tax loopholes. Be mad at the lawmakers who smile in your face and vote against every bill that could actually help you. Be mad at the political elite throwing parties in gold ballrooms while cutting school lunch programs or housing and food assistance. Be mad at the system that tells you to work harder while your hard work funds their luxury. And yes, be mad at this president, who literally mocks the American people with tasteless animations while building a gilded ballroom for his wealthiest friends, as the rest of the country can't afford to be healthy or housed or fed. That's where your anger belongs, not at your neighbor, not at the person struggling beside you. Aim it upward, because that's where the decisions and the deals are made. Every time you see a law that makes no sense, ask yourself, who paid for it? Every time you see a tax cut that benefits the few, ask yourself, who lobbied for it? Every time you see a politician vote against the will of the people, ask yourself, what ballroom were they in the night before? Because politics in America isn't broken. This is exactly what they want: us down and them thriving. But here's something that gives me a small sliver of hope. Every empire that's ever existed built on greed eventually collapsed under its own gold. The only thing keeping this one standing is silence, and I don't plan on being quiet. Because democracy isn't supposed to sulk in silence, it's supposed to serve. And no matter how gilded this ballroom gets, we still outnumber the guests inside it. Always remember that. The dream was never meant to be bought. The dream was meant to be shared. But if money can buy the laws, the leaders, and the truth, then we have to remind the world what can't be bought: our voice, our vote, our outrage, our unity. Because gold ceilings fade, but movements, real ones, they echo forever.